Retro.
What's up, guys? This is Daniel Logan, Boba Fett from Attack of the Clones, The Clone Wars, Book of Boba, Skywalker Saga game, and hopefully many more things in the Star Wars galaxy. You are listening to Jay and Dennis on Podcast Stardust. Yep, this is the way I've spoken.
Welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
She's back. We're all happy. Yay.
And thank you for holding down the battle station, Dennis. You did a great job in my unexpected absence.
I
Appreciate it.
appreciate that, but I really did realize how much better the show is with you and how much easier it is to do when you have someone to talk to on it. But I'm so glad you're back. And
I'm glad to be back.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So Jay's back, and we are now going to wrap up our coverage of Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy: Pieces of the Past by discussing the fourth and final episode. But before we do that, Jay, you want to go ahead and remind everybody what our social media contacts are before we get started?
Absolutely, Dennis. We are very easily found on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust.
All right. The dish is aligned. The signal's boosted to maximum output. The shield is down. We are now broadcasting to the galaxy. So, like I said, this is our discussion of Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy: Pieces of the Past, Part 4. And we'll get into some of the details here. But before we do, what are your more overall non-spoilery type thoughts about this one?
I thought this was a great wrap up to this series, and it definitely kept me engaged and on the edge of my seat in a lot of ways. There were some really fun little surprises, especially towards the end. And I didn't think it was overly too predictable. I mean, there were some things I was like, oh, I kind of figured that probably would have happened, but I thought it was very clever the way that they got us to the resolution of this particular storyline. So I definitely give it an A in my book for sure. But what do you think?
Oh, it was definitely fun. I enjoyed it. This is going to sound like a criticism. It's really not, but it did have enough of these corny Star Wars references and lines from the movie that they kind of delivered in dad joke type fashion throughout the whole thing that, it was a groaner from here and there, but in a fun way. I think overall, I feel like the tone was a lot more kids play type of a tone than the previous 3 episodes, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
I could see real little kids coming up with some of the dialogue if during free play, if that's what they wanted to do, which is fine. I did kind of predict a twist, so to speak, twist in quotes, that happened to this, if you remember at the end of our last episode. So kind of saw that one coming. But no, it was fun. I think I liked the other 3 episodes more because they got so much more into the, what is the Force Hold, the lore behind the Force Hold. And that's where we really got like the best mashups and things like this. And this is really just much more of a conclusion type of an episode as opposed to giving us the new stuff. And that's fine. That's what his job was. But I just kind of liked getting into the concepts of the first 3 episodes. But as we've been saying all along, this is not a series that you could take too seriously.
Right.
So you just kind of have to enjoy it for what it is, and for what it is, it was fun. It was a good time. So,
Yes.
yeah, indeed. All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get into this. I did think it was funny that Solitus showed up in the opening montage of characters, with the whole little Star Wars banner they do at the front.
Yes.
And then we go from there to the only planet left in the galaxy, Canto Bight, with Solitus's fortress. And, Solitus is just like pleased that his plans worked. He's enjoying the peace and quiet and the silence, and he's told Dev that he's made the right choice. You're looking for a teacher, now you found one. But it brings up a question for me. And then what? If there's nothing left in the galaxy, what's there to teach? What's there to do? What's the purpose of all this? And it doesn't ultimately matter, I guess, but I don't know. I just was like, so what was the next phase of the plan here? What that occurred to you, or what did you think?
Oh yeah, and the thing, like I brought this up before, that this is very much reminiscent of Avengers, you know,
Mhm.
in terms of once Thanos snaps his fingers and everything is kind of quiet, it's like, okay, well, now what? What's next? And
Yeah,
but this is even more severe because there's literally no one left but the two of them, Solitus and Dev. So, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I kept expecting him to say something like, "Well, now we can rebuild the galaxy however we want," or whatever, and nothing. I mean, it was just like, Thanos had a plan, which was the galaxy's resources are being stretched beyond their capabilities here, so I'm getting rid of half the life in the galaxy, and then everyone will be better off. That's left will be better off for it. Well, Sol's just want to get rid of everybody. So,
Right.
okay,
Yes.
he really is the world, a galaxy's largest introvert. So, uh,
It's true. But did it
yeah.
ever strike you, there was at one point where I thought to myself, I wonder if Solitus is kind of a metaphor for the parent who wants to make sure that everything is picked up, put away, cleaned up, and because there was a lot of references made to that type of thing, like cleaning up and putting things away, so to speak. Did that ever occur to you?
Well, I think the closest thing to that, skipping ahead towards the end, and we'll just say it now, when Dev is turned on him and Dev, Sig, and Bob are fighting him, one of the things they do is they just start making random things. And
Mhm.
that annoyed Solitus.
Yes.
That was how they distracted him. So yes, he wants the peace and quiet. He wants everything in its place. I mean, I guess we should have guessed that based off his name, Solitus, Solitude.
True.
But it's not like he's Darth Solitus. He's not even a Sith in this thing. But yeah, I don't know. He's just. I think yeah. There's the metaphor for the cranky don't don't do with your Lego toys what you're anything other than what you're supposed to do with them, and the
Mhm.
anti creativity. um yeah, and the antithesis of that is Sig throughout this, which is talking about he makes some reference. I think he actually uses the words free play at some point in the
Yes,
episode.
I think he does. I think you're right.
Right, and so it's just kind of like, don't be constrained by all of this. The whole point of all of this is to explore and to create and do things that are new. Um, so and I think that theme was handled pretty well. It's not like they hit us over the head with it, but they made just enough references for us to get it.
Mhm. Yes, I agree.
Mhm. So we get back to the Force hold, which is disintegrating because, as Jedi Bob tells us, it was never intended to hold an entire galaxy like this. So it's caving in on itself there. And later we find out that by doing this, it changes the nature of Solidus's power. So when he opens up those rifts, he's not sending one to the Force hold, he's sending them into oblivion there.
Right, right.
And he even has a quote at the end of this when they're all fighting. But he basically says, like the power of oblivion there and whatever. So yeah, it's an interesting character. But Sig rallies everybody into working together, not before Obi-Wan and Revan get sucked into this void with Obi-Wan saying goodbye there, which
That was so
yeah.
corny, but I did chuckle at that one.
Yeah, that's kind of like the Star Wars dad joke thing I was
Right.
making reference to. Those happen quite uh, often throughout this. And R2 saves 3PO, Grogu saves the Mandalorian, and but then they talk about how they need to play together. The Force connects them all, and he and Dev were a Force dyad, but they can be a Force myriad. Which on the one hand, when I heard him say that, I was like, that's kind of clever. But on the other hand, it's like, again, it's like you could think of the kid who got the concept of the Force dyad and just said, I'm going to make a Force dyad with 20 people
Right.
in it there. But
And even
yeah,
those that don't know how to use the Force.
right, right. And then we get that corny line from Palpatine. Is like, if this guy talks more than Darth Plagueis the long-winded. Uh, yeah, and that's just kind of the fun of this is that they do rely on those puns throughout quite a bit, but they do that to get their portal home.
Yes.
You know, and then everyone gets dumped out on Canto Bight, and Solitus' stronghold is in the distance, and they do the charge. And again, another pun. Luke screams out, "It's the return of the Jedi!" And Darth Ray says, "And the revenge of the Sith." So, oh, and here's the line. Solitus says, "I am the Bolivian. I am the everlasting nothing." That was what he was saying there. So, a lot of cameos that come up over the next battle. We get Neil and Fern from Skeleton Crew. We, Cassian builds out the rebellions are built on hope. The Landalorian gets to say, "This is the way." We get to see Wrecker, Hunter, and Omega from the Bad Batch. And then Amidala's like, "You're going down a path I can follow," all enthusiastically there. Did you have a favorite of any of these that really stood out to you?
Well, I have to say, I have to go back and watch this because I missed some of these. I caught Cassian and I caught Wrecker, but I did not catch Omega. I'm trying to remember if I remembered seeing Hunter, and I do not remember seeing Neil and Fern. And I was trying to look, in the background to see if I could catch all of those. So I'm definitely gonna have to go back and slow-mo this because good catch.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you get to pause it frequently while you're taking notes. But Neil was obvious. You can't when you see him, you can't miss him. And then there's a slightly taller Lego minifig that's a girl that has long brown hair. And I suppose it could be someone else, but I decided that had to be Fern. And then you see a young kid with blonde hair. And it took me a while to figure out who that was before I concluded that it had to be Omega. Because at some point I think she's standing next to Hunter. The Hunter minifig has got the half tattoo on one side of its face, and Wrecker's wearing his helmet. It's hard. Once you see him, it's pretty obvious that's there.
Wrecker
But
I did catch. But
but at the end of the episode, Omega is hanging out with Neil and Fern as well. So it shows up a couple times as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you know, is that supposed to be the redhead? Was that Mara Jade in the white? Is that what you concluded? Because I kept catching, and she looks like she had long red hair, but I was trying to figure out who the heck that would be.
I don't know. I didn't catch that character, whoever it is you're talking about. I got the impression that beyond the Mara name drop from, I think, episode 2, that she never actually appeared in this from what I saw on StarWars.com, but that may not be correct. I don't know. That's
regardless, I gotta go back, and watch this again.
Yeah. Then K2SO leads the battle on behalf of Solitus, and it's kind of a scene that pays homage to the arena and Attack of the Clones, where he pulls up these buildings that just are full of battle droids. First it's just regular battle droids, and then some super battle droids and a few dark troopers, and then the next round has got droidicas, and it's got the spider droids and the Octoptora type of droids that are all in there. And he initiates the Goliath protocol, where he basically absorbs all of the pieces from the destroyed battle droids and becomes a gigantic K2SO. I really thought that at some point he was going to get reprogrammed by K2SO or something, or not by K2SO, by Cassian at some point, and that didn't happen here. But yeah, he had a much bigger role in this fight than I expected. But what did you think about him?
Pun intended, much bigger role.
Yeah.
But no, I thought, this is totally a kid thing because, little kids playing and they're like, I'm going to make it even bigger and better, like you were saying about the Force Myriad, kind of the same idea. So I thought that was just perfect for, thinking about what Legos can do and just putting all the pieces together literally and making this huge. And I love the idea of this Goliath protocol. What a great name.
Yeah, no, I thought that was fun too, and I like the fact that there was the 2 giant droidicas there, and then Brickhead's Ahsoka ends up taking over those and pilot it, and I think she's I haven't had this much fun since the Clone Wars. There,
and then she said something like, "Finally, somewhere I can fit." Something to that character when she gets in.
Yeah. I was trying to decide what it reminded me of, and not a perfect comparison by any stretch of the imagination, but kind of like Ripley from Aliens when she gets in the load lifter suit
Ah,
to battle
okay.
the Queen a little bit.
Mhm.
But that was I thought that was actually a pretty cool little scene there. I mean, I using that droideka that way. I think in that now defunct Star Wars Hunters game, one of the characters had like a droideka that they were using as a mobile battle vehicle of some sort. So I don't know if they drew
Okay.
inspiration from that or where they came up with that from, but at
Mhm.
least an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Jabba dual
Yes.
wielding lightsabers.
It was so good. So good.
And I just loved in the battle, like when they first start doing the charge, just kind of seeing him like hopping forward at a slower pace than everybody else. And then even back when in the Force hold, he's riding around on the back of Spider Jar Jar Binks, uh,
Mhm.
just because yeah, he can't move that fast. But
Right.
yeah,
He is a big old slug, by the way. And I do like Palpatine coming in with his spinning move, but yet he had his blue lightsaber instead. That was pretty cool.
yeah. Again, that's just they just kept dropping all of the lines and the
Mhm.
references from the original Star Wars movies that that we're used to in this. Did you notice? I wasn't sure if it was IG-88 or IG-11, but the IG-11 Jedi that was there.
I did, yes, I did catch that. That was super cool too.
Yeah, and he
Just
was like the
loving
only
it.
casualty of the whole thing either when
Yeah, because he
K2SO
gets
stopped on him.
smashed on him. Yep.
Yeah, and
Poor
then of
guy.
course Luke clears the path for Sig and Dev so they can go get the Solitus, and you go handle this, and we'll take care of this, and may the Force be with you. And then Sig geeked out of that. He said it. He said the thing. You all have been saying the thing, Sig, with all the lines we get there.
Yeah, our first clue that Dev was, truly on his side was when he called him Siggy.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to bring up, because
Mhm.
when they get to Solitus's fortress and Solitus basically says, Dev, go destroy your brother. And he jumps down there. And as soon as he addresses him by Siggy, are you ready? I was like,
Mhm.
okay, if we didn't know what was going to happen before, we sure do now.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
yeah. And
Although
so,
Sig wasn't too sure, he was
yeah.
he was ready to defend himself if he needed to.
Well, and then of course, as soon as Dev turns around and shoots Force Lightning at Solidus, Siggy, I'm calling him that now. It's like, I knew there was still good left in you. And I was like, well, did you? Because
But did
you
you?
sure seemed like you were getting ready to throw down against Dev there a second ago.
Mhm. I think it was more, like I said, defending himself than anything else, but
Yeah. But then we get the throw out of Dev says that, it was the only way, the reason why he betrayed him is because the only way to save Sig during all that. And then he finds it incredibly more annoying that no matter what he does, no matter how hard he tries, he doesn't want anything bad to happen to Sig. And it's not fair. And then Sig completes a formula. It's family. And then Dev says, well, what I'm trying to say is I love you. And Sig retorts, I know. And yeah, okay. We all know where
right.
that line comes from, but fun pun. They worked another one in
Of
there.
course.
Yeah. I did like the line that they threw out there that power for power's sake creates a void in your soul, which,
Oh, so glad you pulled that out because I loved that too.
yeah, I mean,
Uh,
we compared to all the other lines that we got in here, there's how to describe it, like this mush factor that's going on. Like when Leia promotes Yessi and gets that battlefield promotion to general in the middle of this thing. It's like, oh, I know you can do it. I've been giving you all these other tasks that you can learn how to do every other job in the alliance and this, that, and the other. And, when she's like giving out orders and, force users go to your vroom, vroom, vroom type of a thing. And
right.
again, and then this is like a real line. It's a good one. It's a
It is.
real
It's a
line in the middle of all
quotable
this. Yeah.
quotable line. Yeah.
And they even try to save Solidus. It's never too late to turn away from a dark path, but Solidus
Right.
isn't going for it. So, and then again, another Star Wars groaner when Vader's talking to Padme, the thing I hate the most in this galaxy is sand, but there's one thing rougher than sand. Regret. And I've been living with
Regret.
regret for a long time. Yeah. Like I said, it's not a criticism, but I think it's one of those things, if you're a kid, you're just like, "Oh, I get that reference." And if you're an adult, you're like, "Oh my gosh, what a fun."
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, yeah, Ahsoka had left and came back with the gigantic Chewbacca, Cal Kestis, Ben Solo, Viper, and Jackson there. So they got to come around for the finale. And, that was the other thing that occurred to me. It was like, I thought the Chewbacca versus the giant K2SO was a lot like Godzilla and King Kong versus Mechagodzilla from the recent movies that
Oh,
came out
yeah, I
there.
could see that. Yep, good call.
Yeah. And then, of course, Chewbacca ripped off an arm because that's what Wookiees do.
Why are they ripping off arms? Why do they do that?
Yeah.
That's what he said. Good stuff.
But yeah, we talked a little bit about that final battle with Solitus. They to distract him, they started making random things that annoyed him, and then they deflect Solitus's void power back at him, and he blasts him off into a rift. And right before that rift closes, so I mean, I think they've now given us a very strong possibility if they want to bring Solitus back for a third one of these rebuild the galaxy type specials, they can. But I don't know. I don't know that they can, and I trust them to do so. But the original Rebuild the Galaxy was such a fun concept. Turning everything we know about the Rebels and the Empire and everything on its head, and doing all these other crazy mashups. Making the clones, Moncala, and Darth Jar Jar, playing into all those other like legends and tropes and stuff like that. And then this one was fun. The greatest thing I think about it was the doing the Force hold and introducing other type of Lego sets and everything, and taking it one step further. I'd kind of like to see them continue on that progression, keep giving us the mashup type stuff that we wouldn't necessarily think of right away. That again turns everything we know kind of on its ear. But what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. And that's what's been so fun about it is because, as we pointed out in the very beginning, this is all for fun. None of it's canon. None of it's, to be
Yeah.
taken, other than just maybe a grain of sand. Ha 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 ha. And it allows for so much creativity and so much fun. Just like when we see some of these characters at the end popping up, all the other brickheads, we get to see Sabine, Ezra, and Hera that we
Uh-huh.
didn't see before, and so that could be maybe a clue to what could potentially be coming as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I also have a question for you here. So the force hold turned into a void, and everything that was in it was collapsed in on itself and destroyed. Yet, after they defeated Solidus, it opened back up and spit out the galaxy. I know I'm looking way too far into this, but none of that stuff was like it was all destroyed. I mean, it was
Right.
it's a little bit of a logic problem. I mean, who cares? We're rebuilding the galaxy here, but my second watch there was like, well, wait a minute, didn't all that stuff just get wiped out? What was there? But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, well, this is maybe how you set up your third episode. That when the
Mhm.
force hold belched everything else back into this galaxy, maybe it put a bunch of stuff that, like the other Brickheads characters, out there that wasn't there before, that could lead us to new adventures.
Yes, and I kind of likened it as well, sort of on that same line of thought that I was talking about earlier with, you put away your Legos and they all kind of go away and maybe they get just shoved into the back of the basement or whatever. And then now you get them all back out and you've rebuilt them, but maybe they're not rebuilt exactly the same
Yeah,
because, that's what happens when you play with Legos.
right, indeed. And then the Sith have all gathered up, and Jarsa says maybe Wisa should turn over a new leaf, and then Darth Vader's like, "Yeah, we're not going to be doing that." And then I love Jarsa. Again, another callback to the Phantom Menace. So what was Misa thinking? So and they
Right.
wander off. So our Sith are still out there wandering around, ready to make mischief the next time around. And then, of course, Dev is going to stick around. He takes up Bob on his offer for training. And so if we do get a third entry in all of this, at least they'll start off as partners this time around, as opposed to adversaries.
Mhm. Yeah, and then Yessie gets left in charge by Leia, and Leia's going on this big Skywalker family trip, so that could be something too, that Yessie's leadership is coming into question or maybe being challenged in some way,
Yeah.
and, yeah, so
Yeah.
could be that too.
The Skywalker family trip, We discussed the Marvel Infinities comics some time ago. I don't know what episode those were, but the alternative stories of one thing had changed and it was different in A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, and how the story plays out from there. I would love to see someone do an alternative take, and this made me think of it, where Padme didn't die
Hmm.
and Anakin did get redeemed, and Luke and Leia were all around, and what those four would have done together going forward, and all
Yes.
of that. I think that could be an incredible story. That could be a lot of fun.
Oh, I totally agree. And I've seen a lot of people do, renderings of different artwork and things on Pinterest and, going on family trips. And there's even been the trend recently with the blurry family photos. And you see Anakin and Padme with the two young,
Yeah.
twins. And that's just a lot of fun too. It's another one of those what if kind of things, which is cool.
Well, because and I don't want to turn this all into this maybe an episode that we do at some point, but I could see like an older Anakin when Luke and Leia are older, and maybe they're not with the Jedi. Anakin put aside being a Jedi, and then they went off to do their thing, but he still nurtured their Force powers and
Hmm.
taught them himself. How does that work out? All kinds of
Yeah.
different ways you can go with that possibility. So, but yeah, as silly as kind of they were at the end, with the group hugs and then Greedo coming back and everything else like that. It's like, huh, it was kind of nice to see a reconciled Anakin and Padme, even if Anakin still was cased in Darth Vader's armor. So,
Right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, and I
but
thought too, maybe that leaves things open with the suggestion of Jar Jar wanting to turn over a new leaf, that maybe there could be something to that as well, that he would challenge the Sith,
I just want to
perhaps.
see him continue to get more ridiculous as a Sith as it goes forward. What's the next evolution? He's got the spider legs. Does he get the next treatment that Maul got with the hinged back legs, the
Mm,
inverted, with
mhm.
the inverted knees and stuff like that. All different kind of ways you go there, and let's see more of Asajj Ventress. I was a little
Yes.
disappointed that she didn't get to show up and participate in this final battle, but or
Yeah,
maybe I
that's a
missed
good
it,
point.
but I
I
don't
know
recall
I
seeing her
missed it
there.
if she was there, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
but and definitely need to bring back Revan and Darth Obi-Wan. So,
Yes, for sure.
all right, well, that was fun. Again, as we've been saying all along, this is not something I think to you just don't take it too seriously. It's fun. It's inspires some ideas like we were just talking about with the Skywalkers and stuff like that. But fun for its worth. You other have anything else we didn't touch on? You want to make sure we cover, or any other thoughts?
Well, again, just some really funny little lines when Luke says, "I might just mess around and do the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs." And he says, "I know it's not actually a science thing, but," or I can't remember the exact
Yeah,
line,
not
but
scientifically accurate, but it sounds
right.
yeah,
And breaking the fourth wall, I just thought that that was a lot of fun.
yeah.
So, yeah, other than that, I just think that it was, again, it's a very fun little exploration and probably something that I don't know. I probably would have watched it, but maybe not as intently as what we did, and so I'm really glad that we got the opportunity to discuss it.
Yeah. I typically watch these the first time when I'm on the exercise bike, and it's always every episode was good for a few good laughs and stuff like that. And then sitting down and diving into the details later to write the notes has always been a lot of fun. So glad we did it. I'm looking forward to whatever they come out next. And it seems like we get at least one Star Wars special every year. So I would expect
Yeah.
something to come out next year. We'll find out.
Mhm.
Okay, well then, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. With our coverage of Lego Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces of the Past Part 4. We hope you'd have enjoyed it. Thank you all for indulging us. I know this isn't everybody's thing, but we have fun with it. I love Star Wars Lego, so we are going to in fact cover these on the show. But if you enjoyed it, or even if you didn't, you just want to get our other coverage, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your podcatcher of choice. We appreciate your ratings and reviews. I'd love to get a few more reviews. If anyone wants to leave some, and I'll try and get some right here on the show. And then if you want to get the entire back catalog of shows, one of the best places you can do that is at retrozap.com. All previous 954 episodes are there. Jay, you want to go ahead and remind everybody about our social media contacts and where else we can be found online?
Absolutely, Dennis. We are very conveniently found on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust. And we do have some Pinterest boards available for some ideas for everything Star Wars, from fashion to all kinds of lifestyle products, collecting, and just even some fun recipes and even beauty tips. So check that out. And then we have our two YouTube outlets, which is the traditional YouTube as well as YouTube Music. So please head over to both of those, like, subscribe, and share those out. And those do support reviews and also interaction. So let us know what you thought of this episode as well as all of our others. And then we also have our TeePublic store. So thank you to those who have been purchasing items. We'd love to see where those end up out in the wild. So please snap a picture, tag us on social media. If you are interested in some Podcast Stardust swag, that's where you want to go. So again, TeePublic, and we do have a link to our TeePublic store in our show notes.
All right, upcoming on the show, and this is all subject to change as Jay and I are trying to catch up back up on our schedule. But on Friday, we are planning to cover Star Wars news. And then on Monday, the current plan is to do this month's edition of the Revenge of the Sith series that we're doing. And we'll see what happens after that. But a lot of things are in flux right now, so that may change. We'll find out. With that said, thanks for listening to episode 955 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. And until next time, may the Force be with you.